Challenges faced by Islamic civilization throughout the history. The Islamic civilization was established in the 7th and 8th century of the Common Era as a result of a series of victories with its neighbor. It was a broad and encompassing empire. The first unity came apart in the 9th and 10th centuries. Over this time, Islamic nation developed magnificent cities, absorbed and welcomed other cultures and peoples, and it rose and fell in a state of constant evolution. Great developments in philosophy, science, law, medicine, art, and architecture were also brought forth by the empire. The Islamic faith is a fundamental component of the Islamic empire. One could consider Islam to be a reform movement that emerged from monotheistic Judaism and Christianity in certain ways. This rich blending is reflected in the Islamic empire. Under the leadership of the Byzantine Emperor Heraclius, the Byzantine Empire began to spread out of Constantinople or modern-day Istanbul in 622 Common Era. Heraclius fought multiple operations against the Sasanians who had been controlling large portions of the Middle East, including Jerusalem and Damascus for almost 10 years. The goal of Heraclius' war, which was really an invention, was to expel the Sasanians and establish Christian dominion over the Holy Land. Then, a man by the name of Muhammad ibn Abdullah was beginning to preach in West Arabia, which is a different, more radical form of monotheism during the Heraclius' rise to power in Constantinople. Islam, which means literally submission to the will of God, and Muhammad was a philosopher and prophet who founded the Islamic empire. There are a few civilizations that appeared under the Islamic civilization umbrella, which are the Umayyad dynasty from the year of 661 until 750, the Abbasid revolution in the year of 750 until 945, then the decline of Abbasid and Mongol venture emerged in the year of 945 until 1258, then the Mamluk Sultanate in the year of 1250 until 1517, and finally the Ottoman Empire in the year of 1517 until the year of 1923. The rise of Islamic civilization continues with the Umayyad dynasty. Following Ali's death in 661, the Umayyad took over Islam and ruled it for the following many centuries. Muawiyah was the first person to rule. He ruled for 90 years, followed by his descendants. Under the Umayyad rule, the civilization grew from a collection of weak societies in eastern Iran and Libya to a caliphate ruled by the central government that extended Central Asia and the Atlantic Ocean. Then the civilization started to weaken when the Abbasid declined. The Abbasids were already facing difficulties by the early 10th century, and the empire was collapsing due to a lack of resources and internal pressure from the newly independent dynasty in formerly Abbasid territory. The Buyids in the year of 1945 until 1055 in Iraq and Iran, and the Fatimids in the year of 909 until 1171, and Ayyubids in the year of 1169 until 1218 in Egypt, and the Samanids in the year of 819 until 1005 in eastern Iran were some of these dynasties. Finally, the fall of Islamic civilization occurred in the Ottoman Empire. About 1300 current era, a little kingdom on former Byzantine territory gave rise to the Ottoman Empire. During the next 2 centuries, the Ottoman Empire expanded, bearing the name of the first emperor, which is Osman. After defeating the Mamluks in 1516 until 1517, Ottoman Emperor Selim added Mecca and Medina to his kingdom, effectively doubling its size. As the world grew closer and more modern, the Ottoman Empire started to lose their momentum, and it officially came to an end with the close of the World War I. There are a few challenges faced by the Islamic civilization that finally made the civilization decline, and some of the challenges that Islamic civilization has encountered throughout history, including the internal conflicts, external pressure, also the socio-political changes. Firstly, in terms of internal conflict, this is an ongoing issue that has been faced by the earlier civilization up until this present day, and most of the conflicts are the same and being repeated since the rise of civilization until the fall of civilization happened. And there are various of internal struggles in the fall of the Ottoman Empire and the larger fall of Islamic civilization. This fall was historically caused by a number of circumstances, including societal changes, economic hardship, political unpredictability, and outside influences. There were conflicts between various ethnic and religious groups, power struggle among the ruling elites, and tension between traditionalist and progressive forces inside the Ottoman Empire. The empire eventually collapsed as a result of territory losses brought on by this internal conflict and external pressure from European powers. Despite attempts at modernization, the Ottoman Empire fell victim to what most historians characterize as a slow decline, even though it lasted for 600 years. After fighting alongside Germany in World War I and losing, the Ottoman Empire was finally brought to an end by treaty and fall in 1922 with the overthrow of Mehmed VI, which is the last Ottoman Sultan who departed Constantinople, which is now Istanbul, in a British warship. For example, one of the internal conflicts of the Ottoman Empire is its population was undereducated. Even with the Ottoman Empire's best attempt to enhance education in the 1800s, the country's literacy rate fell with a short of that of its European rivals, and by 1914 only 5 to 10% of its people were thought to be illiterate. The Ottoman Empire's human resources, like its natural resources, were comparatively underdeveloped. This indicates that there was a shortage of skilled military leaders, engineers, physicians, and other professionals throughout the empire.
Islamic civilization has faced various external pressures throughout history, which have shaped its development and interactions with other cultures. The first one is the Crusades. The Crusades, which began in 1095 and lasted for almost 2 centuries, served as the primary basis for cooperation between Christian ministries and imperialists, with the goal of subduing Islam's progress. Initiated by Western European Christians against the Muslim world during the Middle Ages, put significant pressures on Muslim territories in the Middle East, North Africa, and parts of Europe. The outbreak of this conflict resulted in the loss of territory for Islamic power and the establishment of European colonies in the Middle East. Secondly, Islamic civilization faced external pressures from Mongol invasions. The Mongol invasions of the 13th and 14th centuries demolished many Islamic cities and centers of learning, including Baghdad and Damascus. The Mongols, led by Genghis Khan and Hulagu Khan, destroyed the majority of the Islamic world, causing the demise of several Islamic dynasties. Thirdly, Christianization. In the 17th century, the Roman Catholic Church established the Vatican's Ministry of Religious Propaganda in order to spread Christianity around the world. With the help from the ministry, who has provided funds, they established propaganda schools for foreign religions in Paris, as well as institutions in Germany, France, and Bulgaria. In addition, a new school was also established to better train Christian missionaries. Lastly, Islamic civilization also faced external pressure from European colonialism. Since the 18th century, European colonial powers such as the British, French, Dutch, and Spanish have exerted significant pressure on Islamic societies in the Middle East, North Africa, and also South Asia. This act of colonialism has caused political, economic, and social disruption, which resulted in many Islamic countries becoming colonies or protectorates of European powers. Other than that, the decline of the Ottoman Empire. definition of nation-states that frequently did not reflect the region's ethnic, cultural, or religion, resulting in conflicts and also chaos.
Islamic civilization also has had to deal with several big social changes happening in society. The first is colonization and westernization. European countries' colonization of Muslim majority areas had a big effect on social structures, cultural practices, and government. Colonial rulers often brought their own law systems, schools, and ways of running the government, which slowly weakened traditional Islamic rules. Then, adopting Western ways of life, beliefs, and institutions has been both a problem and a chance. Some parts of becoming more like the West have had more progress, like making science and technology better, but they have also caused problems with traditional Islamic practices. After that, cultural influences may cause the Muslims to have identity crises. In secular and oppressive states, Muslim communities often feel used, ignored, and abused. People might overlook serious massacres, which can lead to the loss of one's true identity, and it might also make the world seem to be at odds with each other. For example, young Muslim Americans seemingly have an identity crisis. They deal with the tension or conflict between the Islamic world of their home, neighborhood, and the secular world they live in. They could become radicalized because they think they cannot live together with each other. People also feel like they have failed and lost confidence in themselves. And there are even Muslims who are unhappy with both the West and their Islamic states. Not meeting the social needs of countries influenced by the West also makes identity problems become worse. Moreover, it is important to find a balance between globalization and traditional preservation. Some countries with a Muslim population have trouble keeping up with technological progress, or people always call it as technological backwardness. It is always hard to find a balance between custom and modernity because Muslims want to have a good balance between those two. So of course, it will take some time for the civilization to adapt and make changes. However, due to that, some people think or have what we call heavy stereotypes and bad image that all Muslim countries are associated with all of those negative portrayals of being not very developed. Some people even consider all Muslim countries as developing countries or third world countries. These are the countries that have problems like poverty, hunger, disease, starvation, civil wars, riots between different groups of people, high unemployment, low technological levels, low living standards, and other signs of being behind the times. This part of the world could be said as also socially excluded. They are dominated, but they are also exploited by the global system. It is also very important to recognize the variations in the Islamic world that come from demographic shifts. Muslims come from a wide range of national, regional, and racial backgrounds, so their ideas about Islam can be very different. Managing relationships between groups and promoting social cohesion and making sure minorities have the same rights as everyone else are all ongoing problems. When people do not deal with variety, it can lead to problems and tensions and conflicts. In Qutb's research in 1990, the social structures of the Muslim world have become more like those in Jahili culture, and these include bad changes in clothing or fashion style, food, language, and the school system. Qutb said that the Western educational system has brought harmful ideas like Marxism, Darwinism, and ideas from other religions that the Muslim Ummah studies, in which it stopped them from following the path of pure Islamic teachings. The Western school system was able to push the teaching of the Quran and the Hadith of the Prophet to the back, and this has bad consequences on the learning process on the society. So, Muslim word is still important and has its own significance, and it could be said that its social order has not been completely destroyed. It will either get better by us trying to change Western culture and social setting, or it will just keep struggling in a bad position.
Political challenges witnessed by most of Muslim countries in the first half of 20th century were formed during the colonization process of the Muslim world. The West studied the Islamic heritage, and a vast literature was presented by classical Orientalists who provided a distorted picture of Islam and its civilization. The West found it very easy to install secular-oriented political system in the Muslim world. As a result, Muslim leaders had to follow a political system based on secular laws that were supported by the foreign state apparatuses, law and social institutions. Besides, the colonizers left behind in the Muslim countries hold the key positions in the governmental administration, especially in the educational system. Next is the misperception of Islam. Islam has been perceived as a threat to world peace in the contemporary Muslim world. The terms like fundamentalists, extremists, and terrorists are linked with Islam, eventually leading it to be applied to the Muslim living in contemporary Muslim society. This has created an Islamophobia and leads to an irrational fear of Muslims among the Westerners. It is important to note that the Western world is intentionally creating the misperception as a form of political challenge in order to ensure that the contemporary Muslim world is perceived as a major threat for any Western country. Another political changes is secularization and nationalism. The secularization process of Muslim countries and their political system created a gap between ruling elite and the Muslim masses. The acceptance of Western nationalism divided of Muslim world into independent nation states, as well as the division of life into two aspects, which are religious life and secular life. Religious life are meant to be private and individual, while secular life meant to be public, governing all activities including politics. Nationalism governs Muslim countries based on territories rather than Islamic principles. Although contemporary nationalism was introduced by the West, yet its real application is seen in the Muslim world in all aspects of Muslims' life. The other political changes is the sectarianism. The sectarianism challenge has also become a political issue in the sense that it emphasizes the aspect that Muslims are divided into sects of Shia and Sunni, and each of them do not accept the ideologies of the other sect. For example, Saudi Arabia follows the Sunnism school of thought, while Iran and Iraq follow the Shia school of thought, and they believe that their own view is the right way to follow Islam. Sectarianism is one of the major drawbacks in the growth and development of Islamic communities, and is being used as a political challenge by the Western countries in order to divide the Muslim Ummah. In conclusion, the historical journey of Islamic civilization has been marked by a series of intricate challenges that have shaped its development and trajectory. These challenges stem from a variety of sources, including internal conflicts, external pressures, and socio-political transformations. Despite these challenges, Islamic civilization has demonstrated resilience and adaptability throughout its history. By understanding and addressing these challenges, Islamic civilization can continue to evolve and thrive in an ever-changing global landscape. Hence, good political leadership plays a crucial role in the management and sustainability of Muslim Ummah and human community as a whole. Therefore, it could be concluded that all the challenges faced by the Muslim world can be eliminated only if the Muslims will revive their understanding about Islam and its civilization. This can be achieved through the process of Islamization undertaken by every Muslim individual through the integration of both thoughts and action.